All right, thanks guys for coming. If you're sitting way out the back, it might be a little bit awkward for you. Maybe you'll feel more included down the front. Anyway, I'm going to pleasure you people with my mouth for the next 70 minutes. Maybe 80 if people are really getting into it, but yeah, it says 70 in the advertising. Alrighty. Hands up who's seen performance poetry before in their lives? Yeah? Slight majority. How many do we have? I can literally count everyone. We just have over the 2-hand mark, so that's good. Alright. And Mark, who's filming, he's going to add in some canned laughter, some canned applause later on, like an episode of Friends or Seinfeld or some shit. Because we don't have many people, but I appreciate you all coming out. So thank you for supporting my Loudmouth poetry show. All right, make me feel special with some applause. As I was saying to Renee earlier on, or sort of started saying, so back in the day we're veterans of Auckland's K-Road poetry scene, and back then people would do really intense, 3 or 4 minute poems, or they would, people would sometimes organise shows that would go for a whole hour, right, but it would be a big mixture of poets. But yeah, to do a solo poetry show that goes for over an hour is a pretty rare thing. I haven't seen much of it myself. Sometimes people come over from Europe and give it a crack. But anyway, yeah, we're keeping performance poetry alive in Whangarei. Again, it's beautiful to have you here. I'm going to entertain you with some poems, about 12 or 13 of them. Let's do business. All right. This first poem is dedicated to my mama. She's a bit depressive sometimes. One time she was staying at my house and she did the worst thing you can do to a writer. She went into my private things and pulled out a draft of this poem and concluded that it was a mean-spirited poem about her, and she had a cry in my lounge. Oh, Sally. Yeah. And she wouldn't be talked out of it. She didn't understand any kind of writerly device read her over irony or anything. So, this poem is also dedicated to my dad, who the other day asked me what I do for a living. I've been doing the same thing I work as a writer. I make money off writing, and he has no damn idea. Yeah. So this poem is dedicated to my parents, who still think I'm a 23-year-old Otago poetry student, wearing the same pair of Doc Martens for 11 months of the year. Okay. Dear Mum and Dad. Dear Mum and Dad, it's time to tell you where the unemployment is at. It's time to tell you how these job interviews, these recruiters, they rip my patchy CV to scraps. They tell me, bro, no one wants to hire someone who's an authority in short stories. My son, what you got to do is you got to drop that poetry. You got to drop the inspiration, retrain in IT, and by the age of 14, maybe you can finally afford that flash 3-mile bush road pad. You can finally afford the food reviewed in Metro or Viva or Savvy Mag. You could be the portrait of ordinary Kiwi conformity. Mum and Dad, well, I guess something is wrong with me. Maybe I should give my citizenship back. Because, actually, I'm not built like that. I don't get upset over how many snapper I'm allowed to catch, okay? I don't vote for Fair Go Ad Awards or The Block or Married at First Sight. New Zealand's got talent. I got more talent than that in my left nut sack. Mum and Dad, okay, what I'm trying to express to you is that these universities, man, see, I thought I'd learned enough English by the age of 6, but these universities just it's like they deal crack. They just kept handing me more creative writing degrees for what? More paper with which to wipe my ass crack. And now I owe the tax man 40 grand, I gotta gap it to Queensland. See, Mum and Dad, here's what's up. You don't understand that this writing thing, it ain't no passing fad, and okay, sure, I'm not so good at trying to catch a rugby ball, and I can't name all the All Blacks. And these calluses on my hands, they're not from building my own batch, they're from jacking off to literary mags, flipping through the pages, hoping to see my bio at the back. What you gotta understand, Mum and Dad, is what it should say on my resume is what I'm actually good at, which is making treasure out of life's trash, staking a place in a literary race of rats. Mum and Dad, your boy is Kerouac mixed with Karl Marx and throw in a dash of Tucker Max. Rumpelstiltskin, spinning freelance articles into cash. Your boy is an atlas of fiction, holding up some weighty expectation on his back. So with that whole daytime fucking civil service admin man thing, I've got to say, fuck tutoring and fuck temping and fuck the Clean Slate Act. Because if cautious conformist interviewers and recruiters can't see the talent unpacking, they must have some cataracts. Performance poetry is what I'm good at, so fuck that. So you're probably wondering why I'm dressed like this. I reckon yous are all dressed weird. Alright, this poem's for all my Pākehā art people. This one's called Good Old Boy. I'm a good old boy. Buy us a pint, you cunt. From Canterbury to Counties, Whangarei to Wakatane, I am the prop. Holding up the province, the backbone of the National Bank. My milk keeps Kiwis plump. I slit the throats, I squeeze the teats. I'm a good old boy. And my daughter Crystal, she wraps your fish and chips, mate. Never mind the dung and the scabs of her crusty freckled knuckles. I'm a good old boy. And on Saturday mornings, I hustle my spluttering massport across the perfect lawn, pulling out California thistles as I go. A good old boy, and my job is to corral them brown brats out of Mrs. Murray's yarn store and sweep them back into the pen I call Pukekohe North. A good old boy, veteran of a rolling ATV quaddie with not a helmet on me. Give us any John Deere or Botur or a New Holland tractor and I'll mend it with nothing but a Port Royal Rolly push like communion in me lips. See us good old boys, varnished by 100 years of self-assurance, measured by our calloused, crusty handshake crush. Our first 15 is on the $50 bill, and I ain't heard of no espresso. I can't for the life of me pronounce that Torrio. See, I'm a good old boy. In camo gears, once a month I'll stalk up and down RD1 and Wrightson's aisles, and if she's lucky I'll even treat the missus to a little sip of deliciousness from a 2 kg tin at Instant Nescafe. Good old boy, potato razor, ears clotted with Roundup and fertilizer dust. 100 hectare horizon is as much as will stretch me vision. Yeah, a good old boy, unafraid of getting in a punch up with a bunch of tribesmen outside the Takanini Tavern. See, you reckon you're local? Mate, I've drove over cliffs and you've had hot dinners. Local, eh? You got no idea what life is like south of the Mbon base. Whereabouts you stay? Eh? Mate, I'll give you some education. Wear your best Bathurst shirt. I'll take you into the RSA. Show some respect. And don't go bring that big ass brain in here, because the rider will get served only elbows at our bar. I'm a good old boy, doing 30 Ks on a case tractor on the southern motorway. I am a good old boy, Protestant. You better believe my name ends in a consonant. Last time some of you saw me, I had a wife and kids. The wife is gone. She is in some of these poems. And I was putting together this whole show. I was like, I'm not altering the whole poem, just because the wife's gone, yeah.
Good for you, mate, that's real.
Legally, she gets 50% of all these poems. Don't tell her. Alright. She's not here tonight supporting. I'll just go stand outside her house later tonight. All right. This poem's called 20 Bucks. And it's about when I was in my brokest part of the broken, starving artist thing, raising a couple of kids, generation rent, outskirts of Auckland. Oh yeah, and there's a lot of Auckland and Pukekohe in these poems. Turns out, someone told me tonight we're not in Pukekohe, but that's all right. All right, 20 bucks. This poem's about being poor in money, but rich in art and family. 20 bucks. With a big ass overdraft and just 20 bucks, you know what I'm gonna do to get through? I'm gonna buy me 3 $2.99 supermarket brewskis to lubricate the stiff day, to satiate that geyser that lies in wait, to dilute the temper, to water down the magma. Maybe that leaves 10 bucks and 1 cent with which to buy a bottle of Pinot or Merlot to lubricate the wife's type O and make her chill and make that postnatal tension break. Or maybe we're lucky if there's a little bit of change I can put in my little boy's piggy bank, and afternoon evaporates. We tickle and oink. Maybe with 5 bucks I can go down to Macca's and get a Coke McFloat and fill up on everything that's free. Pocket full of straws for the family, all the aircon I could want, a Herald on Sunday, catch up on the Super 18 rugby, or maybe over to the big red barn where it doesn't cost anything to stalk the aisles and mime like I might actually be able to buy one of these overpriced Fisher-Price devices. And if I'm lucky, if I just got a little golden hair on, I can put it in a carousel out where you get the Pack and Save prams from. But it turns out, even though it's Thomas the Tank Hen John, my little bubba's too scared to get on it, so that's my parking change traded for a 50-buck ticket on my bonnet. Okay. You know what? $1 gets you half a scoop of chips. That's fine dining for any little kid. Or you can get the snips and chop 50 cents of snake lollies into twice as many bits. That is our shoestring economy. There is no app for that on no Samsung pad. You know what? I got the park, that's free. I got climbing trees. I've got giggling, grinning, running, chasing, screaming. I've got the beach. That seems to be free. I've got hot baths. I got pram runs. I got making indoor funs. I got putting my kids on their dad's back and crawling through the house for hours in padded motorcycle pants. A panda is what I am, nibbling pot plants. Then it's up stretching that sciatica and down to the church play group for free bickies and tea, and if we're lucky over to the library where my kid runs and squeals amok with glee and pushes books off shelves, and I hope security smiles and doesn't tell. It doesn't cost 5, 10, 20, any bucks to take a bunch of scraps to the sewage pond and feed the ducks, okay? So that's what I gotta say. Fuck these $50 family so-called combos to see Toy Story in 4D, 5D. Last time I checked, my family was 3D. I gotta say, throughout the pauper poverty, throughout the anxiety, I'm gonna keep the writing coming, while strapped to my abdomen, my bubbas sleep obliviously. I have more money since I wrote that poem. Yeah. I hope it turns out I'm secretly rich and not a starving artist. Pay people to write my lines for me. All right. That was 20 bucks. Our next poem is Giant. Oh, this poem is about, all right, who's from furthest away? I am from the deep south of Christchurch. Anyone grow up further away than that? Where you from? Say again? Middlemarch. Middle of nowhere March. Central Otago, eh?
Pretty close, yeah.
Right. From Otagas to Dagas. Not this is Dagas. All right, Giant. Okay, so this poem is about, think back to last time you went to the neighbourhood where you grew up, walking through it and all the memories and feelings that evoked, okay? Giant. So the poem's about, I come from the sleepy, extremely flat, extremely safe western suburbs of Christchurch, a suburb called Hillmorton. Alright. This poem's about walking around Hillmorton. Giant. It's good to feel like a giant back in the hood where I grew up, because you know, I can buy, I can eat, I can drink any damn thing. I'm 36, I can watch 2 R18s, and I don't need you, Mum, I can wash my own undies. Okay? It's good to come back to the homeland, a grown man. I walk through the cul-de-sacs where me and the girls used to play kiss catch and bull rush and bash, back before #MeToo and all that. Okay, I'm old enough to smack my dad back. I'm a colossus of roads. I'm big enough to just walk straight across what once seemed like impossibly wide Frogger roads. It's good to see the same 1990s AC/DC and Angels graffiti on that old tarmac. My mouth is wide enough to scoff lunch with a single munch, and I don't need my parents. I can swing myself. A giant, a titan, a Godzilla, a Kong, a king, conquering the jungle gym. You know, I go jogging through my old primary school to stay fit and reverse the man tits, and I hope I can catch some of the old bullies on top of the jungle gym now that I'm almost 100 kgs. Catch them in their long sleeve Limp Bizkit tees and eyebrow rings. Yeah, now who's the pussy? Now who's Mr. Wiener Little Poetry? I bet those no-hopers went straight from 4th form into a lifelong career pumping petrol at BP. Me? I'm a legend. I'm a giant in my old hood. You know what I remember? I remember as I walked through Hillmorton and Tankerville and Mather Streets and Rowley, which was a racist ghetto reservation for the non-Caucasians, unfortunately, but that's another story. What I remember is I think back to push pops and paddle pops and car blueies and tomato sauce hot dogs. You know what I remember? I remember being perpetually horny and staying up for those midnight Sky One movies, desperate for a little glimpse of nips. You know what I remember? I remember I once stashed a porno mag inside the press newspaper and took it to the dairy counter, trying to rustle up a hustler for $2. But the lady at the counter wasn't no sucker, so Michael Botur walked home alone with a lonely boner. I remember having suspicious hot showers for hours till the hot water was no more and Mum and Dad had to break down the bathroom door. I remember late one Friday night trying to broker a deal to see actual nipples broken through my mate, trying to pay this girl $2.50, but she said, I ain't no hussy. If you want to see these puppies, it'll have to be at least 3. You know what I remember? I remember parties fueled on rocket fuel, Mum and Dad's liquor cabinet, booze mixed with rara and just juice into an alcoholic ooze. I remember vacuuming for pocket money, for back when, for less than 10, you could see a movie with popcorn and drink. You know what I remember? I remember spattering eggs on windscreens of rich cunts. I remember biffing stones at ducks. I remember doing manus and bombs and pools and dry ice bombs at schools, and I got all my vitamins and minerals from Pack and Save pies and Nesquik and Chupa Chups and scoops of chips and fruit roll-ups, and on this diet miraculously skinny enough to squeeze into a prom tux. I remember TPing. I remember tagging with my finger and a dusty windscreen clean me and feeling like a G. Feeling like Dan John Gotti. I remember cards. I remember Gremlins cards and NRL cards and Batman cards. I remember fleeing from animals all the time, fleeing from Rottweiler barks and magpies and bees and ants and wasps and whitetails and stinging nettles and potatoes that I've shoved up exhaust pipes of cars. I remember trouble, vandalism, sabotage, a recall, an all-in brawl. My brainiac nerd class versus the special needs retards with Kiwi cricket gear. Yeah, it's good to push my son onto the playground where I once got to base number 2.5 with a girl in the prickly bark, 30 seconds in heaven. She thought I was hot because I had her hair cut like new kids on the block. You know, it feels good to push my son on a swing in that same park and teach my boy, doesn't matter whether you're bad or good coming up in your hood, what matters more is squeezing in some laughs while childhood lasts. This poem's for all the manly men. It's called You're an Animal. Alright, this poem's about manliness. And this is the manliest man in the world. Alright, right here. This poem is dedicated to you, Vlad. Alright. This poem's for all the men. You're an animal. You're an animal. Hold that head erect and the rest. Yeah, you domesticated your dog to show him who's on top because you reckon Jane Goodall would have put you on a pedestal. So punch your dad, let that diaphragm vibrate with bass because your taste buds, they need gristle, they need grease, they need meat. So what you got to do is you got to seize a taraki directly from the sea. You got to skin something cuddly. You got to waste some ducks with a shotty. Okay, you got to be manly. You got to squat. You got to heft. You've got to bench press to press your musk in the nose of the opposite sex. What you got to do is you got to throw her over your shoulder and take her home and chain her to your bed and moan like a monkey while she plucks your black heads. Man, you got to get out on the prowl. You got to get out your pheromone cologne and spray. Bro, you got to grunt and beat your chest and suck that gut and flex those pecs. You will pollinate any hoe just so as your bros can know. In the former Rhinos or McMorrisseys or on Queen Street, those wide sashaying hips and those burnt tits and that perfect skin, oh, they make your instinct to mate come awake. You got to be a peacock and strut with feathers designed by Howensteins. You got to look for the one with them chromosomes stamped XX to protect while she protects your nest. You got to keep that sensitivity hidden so you can fit in. You got to show your strength with a hold in. You got to hold open doors for women because you are an animal, and you know there is a subtext to every interprimate handshake. On a daily basis, you find yourself evaluating the other guy's BMI, his height divided by his weight. It is unthinkable that some personal trainer who can't even grow a mane fresh out of NZ Institute of Sport is trying to take a slice of your wife. Bro, you got to kick that lion cub aside. You got to protect your pride because the species tree surely gives man an exclusive limb, and you're pretty sure you are superior to specimens with specs and braces and pacemakers. You are a man over animals and women, and you're sure you have dominion. That's true. Oh my God, look at my face. That's why my life left me. Jesus. Well, I made Otangare look better because I look so awful, so that's good. All right, beautification of Otangare. All right, this poem is for all the locals, and Renee, if you're still settling into whangas, this poem will brief you on what to expect as you become embedded in the community. Everybody always sees you in whangarei. Bro, I saw you just the other day in Pack and Save by nappies with your family. I drove past the other way. Then I saw you smoking a session down an alleyway because everybody always sees you in whangarei. Was that you in Otangare buying some weed? Was that you chasing your naked baby down the street? I saw you on Tinder, what are you? Trying to cheat? Ain't no privacy in whangarei someone sees. So you got caught cheating. Marriage dramas, ouch. Afterwards you bought your wife flowers at Palmer's. I saw you in Butters, I saw you in Farmers. I saw you reaching countdown in your pajamas. Hide in the quarry, but you're gonna get found. With a Fritter Festal Facebook, they hunting you down. If you were put in the recycling yard in your dressing gown and something flops out, people know in this town. If you were out buying pea or wheat or groceries, your dealer was your teacher. Probably CCTV, more like community. 6 degrees of separation, try 1 degree. Peace. Oh yeah, look at these men getting together to cause some mayhem. All right. So this poem is called "Somebody to Smoke With," and it's about how deep down a lot of guys just want somebody to smoke with. All right. Somebody to smoke with. I sat on that Friday night in a Subaru in a car park with male 8 mates in oversized XL t-shirts, sucking on pipes just for somebody to smoke with. I did 3 weeks of sweaty, sunburned work, pushing a post-hole borer in the dirt. On a knock-off, we said bugger it and wiped ourselves down with paint-stiffened towels, and we bonded over a bucket of crunchy KFC, united by munchies, just pleased to have a bro with whom to share a cone and a family feast. Because we grown men, we make out like we're all assured and strong and staunch and chill and unafraid, like we're not desperate to get laid, get praised, because we know we could get hit by a bus any damn day. Men in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, men getting together in cycle lycra or rugby stubbies, men in matching patches and hoodies, men ram-raiding Unichem pharmacies at 4:15 on a Thursday morning, squealing tires and guilty pleas, and soon enough getting bulldogs and BPs etched on our cheeks, consigning us to a life we can't come back from, all because we wanted someone to be a bloke with, to feel less alone, somebody to smoke with. Oh yeah, this is the legend of Buster Douglas. Alright. Now, I know probably last time you went to a poetry reading there was probably a poem about an obscure boxing match from 1990, but hear me out, permit me to perform another one. Alright, so this is a sports poem. The legend of Buster Douglas is about one of the most epic underdog upsets in sports history, okay? It's a great story. So, it was billed as Tyson is back. Mike Tyson versus James Buster Douglas was an historic boxing match back at the Tokyo Dome in 1990, back when undefeated Iron Mikey, the baddest man on the planet, he said yup to a scrap with an unheard of downtrodden underdog named James Buster Douglas. Okay? Mike Tyson was, back then, at the height of his might, WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, amongst the many he held. Why, just last spring, he'd done a 90-second knockout on Carl Williams and left the bro on the mat struggling. So this Buster Douglas fight for Tice, it was just a contract filler, just a warm-up bout before he knocked the real contender the fuck out. Now, with 40 victories and a psychopathic psyche, Iron Mikey was considered likely to knock this Buster chump down in the first round. It was only because of 6 unlikely wins in a string that Buster even got his shot at greatness on a Japanese stage. Still, he was just a journeyman, just a nobody. Buster was considered bound to go down. Shit, even the sports reporters were preemptively bored and they filed their stories in advance. Tokyo KO to I Michael. They expected nothing less than Mike Tyson's 41st straight out. What they didn't expect was that just before the fight, James Buster Douglas's mother had died, so he arrives in Tokyo, head down, frowning brow, skipping rope, saying no to dope, injecting only hope. He would use the inspiration. He was going to hit like the hurt hit when he suddenly lost his mum. And meanwhile, here's Mike Tyson prepping for the fight, far from any gymnasium at his hotel. Fucking geishas all night, nosing coke, bathing in champagne, smoking crack cocaine, not taking this thing seriously. So next night, ding ding, on phoning in his 41st fight. Off it went, and Tyson expended maybe just 25% of his energy on this chump he had been signed up to fight, but he gave the guy just a token of his prowess, just a slice, nothing like his best. When Buster didn't go down in the first round, people still didn't second guess or regret their bets, because Tyson was on top. It would fuck this Buster chump up, yeah. But Buster must have mustered something, because he danced, he paced, he got all up in Iron Mike's face with jabs quick and accurate and combos immaculate. Tyson, never this surprised, unable between rounds to miraculously revive or suddenly compensate by going back in time to last night. Tyson's trainer screaming in his brain, don't just sit there and look at an Iron Mikey fight. Next round, Tyson couldn't get the guy down in rounds 2, 3, 4, 5. Suddenly out of nowhere, Buster slaps the rubber out of Tyson's mouth. And Iron Mike, confused and childlike and surprised, scrambled for his mouth guard on the mat. And still, Buster Douglas wouldn't throw a dirty sucker punch. He would let the guy get up, clear his head, get responsive, so no one could say it wasn't honest when he knocked the monster unconscious. And finally, commentators watched on shock. 30 seconds before the final bell, Buster Douglas had sighted Tyson on the world's top until 5 hooks in the right spot knocked him off. It was the biggest upset in boxing history, the killing of a king. Post-fight, face full of mics, interviewed live, they said to him, Buster, bro, sorry man, we didn't think you would actually bother. Why? Why? Because of my mother, God rest her soul, came the new champ's actual legitimate reply. Meanwhile, we all know what happened with the rest of Evil Tyson's life. Went to jail for rape, got something irreversible etched on his face. His hangover movies were a disgrace. So that night, 1-0, unanimous decision in favour of the good guys. If you find these poems getting less funny and more serious, it's because I had to stack all the amusing, warming ones at the start, as you do. Yeah. Kind of people crying and walking out in the first poem. All right. So this poem's called Better Than. Now, Better Than, this poem is about how even on a bad day, our life is probably many, many times better than the 9,000 to 10,000 New Zealanders who are locked up in prison at any one time in New Zealand. Last time I checked, apparently we have the second highest rate of incarceration in the OECD. And you know those Western countries are important. Very, very important. All right. Very superior. All right. But yeah, we do have a big problem with sending people to jail, so here is a poem about that. Better Than. Better Than. Enduring a job on Queen Street in the CBD, being permanently rushed off your feet, busy, and then after work you have to endure paying $13.50 for half a glass of Pinot Gris with a team of unbearable IT geeks. Maybe sucks, maybe not so good, but it is better than having no money and having to hit up Study Link to pay for your Durex or LSD so you can go globe trotting on your OE to parties on the Ganges or some Koh Samui beach and coming home to student loan poverty. Maybe sucks, but it is better than having no job, at home, being slouched on the couch, scrolling Insta aimlessly. Maybe sucks, but it's better than getting in trouble and getting on Home D and being locked up in your house. Pretty terrible, pretty sucky. Better than being arrested and locked up in jail and being boxed in a concrete barn on remand and reclining on a slab pad bed with hands under your head and eating cold pies and little boxes of blue milk and blue light, no stimuli, so you can't slit your veins and bleed the shame away. Maybe terrible. Shoelaces that they confiscate, but this is all better than, even if you got your family crying at home, that's better than having whānau, zero, foster homes and smoking cones and doing burgs with bros at age 13, and that bro, that lowest of the low, that is reality for 10,000 Kiwis from Parry to Paparua to Parry and Ngāwhā Block D, so spare a thought next time you try and bleat about inequality in a home of your own, completely damn free. Let's get a little emotional. All right, disaster in the memory palace. All right, this poem is about when your memory palace, the most serene place on earth, gets destroyed. Who's heard of the concept of a memory palace? All you thousands of people out there, you guys know what I'm talking about. All right, Brett knows what I'm talking about. Cool. Memory palace is a concept first written about in ancient Greece, apparently. One of those bearded guys. So the memory palace is a way of filing away memories that are very precious to you. So it's a mindfulness exercise wherein you imagine a mansion or a big house or a palace with lots of rooms inside your head. And when you want to file away the memories that you really want to hold on to, you put those memories in a room or in a cabinet or in a locker within the room, and you go over and over them until they are until they're basically bedded down through repetition. So anytime you want to access these serene memories, you just go into the room inside your memory palace in your head, and you access the memories that you want. All right. But sometimes the memories that you'd filed away and based your life around can be damaged. So what do you do then? You write a sensitive poem, if you're a sensitive poet. All right. Disaster in the memory palace. In the Bible dry clime of AD 79, in Pompeii, in Campania, a torrent of boiling water and ash wiped out each pillar of the temple of Jupiter. It demolished the cella which held statues of Juno and Minerva, and the memory palace where civilization was filed in drawers and cabinets, intimate knowledge in the lockbox of the prefrontal cortex, in-jokes entombed in neurotransmitter lockers, all of it unexpectedly obliterated in volcanic gas and ash and quake, leaving crumbled cornerstones and boiled bones and hints of limbs. And here's me in 2020, separated suddenly, opening perfumed envelopes from long ago, letting a fast lahar of unexpected upset devastate the memory estate, a flash flood of memory muddying sludge wiping out the optimistic day, sticky choked throat, and from a sports bag nabbed from the moving truck there erupt keepsakes and knickknacks, glitter pen writ on post-it pads, wedding vows writ on paper thick, mementos, love letters inked on a receipt back, souvenirs, tokens, your autograph in grape-scented pen, and my high school yearbook I used to sniff your essence off. All of this mixed by ruthless Vesuvius, the hippocampus palace, powerless, deluged in sulphurous ugliness, erupted flood mud. And likewise, in 1991, on the island of Luzon, Filipino, it saw a cataclysmic flow from the volcano known as Pinatubo. 5 cubic Ks of crushed pumice and vaporized ice and dust and melted snow. A rocky, ashy slurry drowned Pampanga and the towns below. And here I am reminiscing over old photos on my breakfast bar, pulling from the laha that's flooded my amygdala's bazaar, that I can't believe you saved it roach clip, that we sipped at that Wellington Bohemian party where you confessed your anxiety into my earlobe. And what else can be saved from the cooling lava cave? Buried in the hippocampus, rescuers pull your playbill from your fringe theatre show, and panties from our naughty office flutter, fuck, preserved in a glad bag. Everything we had is coming, bubbling up. I smell your soggy, black, mildewed flat. I feel your crusty finger pads, and mixed in the boiling goop that the eruption stews, we find stumps of swing sets overturned. We find a howling orphan. We find an unchained, unclaimed pup. And we find 24 colour pics printed at a chemist, complete with receipt from 03 and an Interpol ticket stub, and that macrame you made that day in that tourist town down in New South Wales where we licked waffle cones and craned over a tourist map while baby snoozed in his papoose, and I grabbed a secret Kodak photo of you looking at the future resolute. And finally, we had the precious things gifted from you to me and me to you in a room with the cerebellum vandalized, not unlike the terraces at Rotomahana, trashed by Tarawera, chandeliers of solid silica that were crystallized into staircases, pink and white before a sudden eruption, pulverized pieces of memory, like me on my knee in front of your family, proffering an engagement ring that took 12 secret weeks of overtime pay and layaway to save up for. And here's another piece of memory pottery. It's you crushing my knuckles, puffing, breathing, counting to 215 as a purple baby's bleats erupted from between your knees. The great creation made with you and me, not so great now. We get half a kid each every second week. Our memory palace, once promisingly empty and spacious to move into and cavernous, now besmirched with dirt. And all of this, the handwritten note in my lunchbox tote, the tattooed in joke, the engraved meaning in the wedding ring, from me to you, the stubs of tickets from the show where you fell asleep on the suit jacket on my elbow, all of it soiled and stained, lava, laughter spattered across the brain. This poem is called The Slut with the Slipknot Tattoo. This poem is about beautiful people who don't realise they're beautiful. The slut with the slip knot tattoo spends Sunday afternoons straightening and bleaching her roots. She ain't immune, this tramp with the slip knot stamp, ain't immune to getting in scraps at netball with that skank who tried to steal her man, her dude, her true love. You know, the boot girl, the slip knot tat, has a 2-year-old to a ginge in jail and in the cargo for GBH. He's stalking, he's restrained, he texts from a new number every month. You know, the tenancy agreement is due for review, and this girl, she begs her landlord for a 2-bedroom. But Bay Corp has got her moving to Timaru. And you know, they creep up her neck, they do. Them blue letters her ex made her get etched. FTP, 150 an hour for them tattoos, while the important bills like energy went unpaid and overdue. You know, Ram Raid vans, fat with stolen pharmacy Nurofen, used to pay for tickets to Tool and Crusty Demons, and she dropped out of her accountancy degree halfway through. You know, her cousins babysit when she is caught up in family court, and a personal trainer from Tongatapu was tapping that, but he won't commit because he's too Latter-day Saint. And she has to guzzle vodka cruiser, and she watches Ellen every afternoon. Loves occasions to change out of her black hoodie and spray a little perfume. Can't help it if after the baby her butt changed shape like Betty Boop. Every wedding, okay, there's the same high school group. Nothing seems to change except she's closed the latest email account. Restraining order renewed, and with another overdraft overdue, what she's got to do is chuck her toothbrush and yearbooks in the boot and drive to, God knows, Banua 2. You know, she's last on the catch-up list. It can seem like the same old shit. She'll just be on the DPB or doing admin in a caravan for a Fulton Hogan crew. But you can't ever remember how used to met. She was just always in the back of the rockin' up ute. And used to spewed on the same rugs when you were coming up and puked in the party buses, and she cut up the oranges at every Marist match, or used to. Hard to relate to because she don't vote or watch the news, but you're in town for some pristine job interview, and with a little bit of mid-morning morning tea, Karuba in you, and bumming apart from a ciggy on the deck, she straightens your tie and says you look good in a suit. Happy to gossip about Form 2. She'll still be here in 20 years. Seems like she ain't going anywhere. Sister, whānau, family to you. And if you didn't know the soul inside this chickadee, she would simply be the slut with the slip knot tattoo. Alright, life advice, because my life is so damn successful apparently. Alright, don't look down. Look at that inspirational friggin' thing to put on your Facebook with some dumbass quote on it from, who's that guy that's always on Oprah? I wrote all those books back in the 90s.
Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra.
Anthony Robbins.
Yeah. Alright, don't look down. This poem is about being stoic when life can seem unfair and imbalanced plenty of the time. When we're constantly showing people on our social media and our Instagram and that, living these privileged, amazingly successful lives. This poem is about how you need to be stoic about things in life and you can't be disappointed. You can't expect all highs and you can't feel sorry for yourself when you have heaps of bad luck in a row, and you can't believe that the universe would be better if you just gave up. Alright, don't look down. Don't look down. Maintain that tightrope trace. Ignore that you're a blob on a rock in space, and only a slim Darwinian coin flip even lets you exist in the first place. This ruthless race of apes will frustrate Gets worse if you don't find ways to keep some faith. Don't look down when you can't keep chill about the daycare or doctor's bills, or when all your friends seem to be on Bondi Beach or Bali holidays eating Instagrammable food truck satay. And for you, prices rise in like an incoming tide and you don't feel your income has gone up since 2005. Born millennial, born with fuck all, everything seems to scream without a property that's overpriced, you won't survive. Okay, think about little kids. Don't look down and doubt the little miracles. Little kitties will light your day with rainbow finger paint. Okay, sometimes they will go from gleeful squeals to meningococcal in the brain whether or not you pray. But it doesn't help if you conclude the earth is a black and unforgiving place. All earthquakes and fates undeserved. Gets worse if you don't invent some faith. Some days, nice guys will finish 1000th place while the snakes get to golden parachute away. And other days you awaken, it's all, the news is nothing but nooses. Another Anthony Bourdain gone, or Chester Bennington, or Robin Williams, or Chris Cornell. Water and air supposed to be free, ostensibly, but there's no land left to live on. What you gotta do is you gotta survive that tightrope life. You can't let malice upset your balance. You gotta be grateful for rain. You gotta leave imposter syndrome at home and pour your hearts out on random Wednesdays to strangers on an open mic stage. You can't let winds get under your skin. You can't scream at aggravating redneck letters to the editor in vain. What you gotta do is you gotta balance pride in the left hand with, okay, some regrets on the right. Know that good times remain behind and keep your eyes on the other side. Now, if you thought obscure 30-year-old heavyweight boxing poems were cliched at poetry readings, I've got a poem about the conquistadors trampling all over South America. Alpha, you like that, eh? And a little bit of Spanish in there. How's your Nahuatl? From the Yucatan. So. Alright. Any conquistadors in the audience are going to fucking hate this poem. Yeah. Alright. Joke told to King Juan Carlos. This poem is about the forceful assimilation of indigenous Americans into a Eurocentric world 500 years ago. Cool. And if you already encountered a poem on this theme today, forgive me. Here's another one. Here's another epic 10-minute poem about the forceful assimilation of indigenous Americans into a Eurocentric world. All right, joke told to King Juan Carlos. So, in 1525, the Holy Roman Emperor, King Juan Carlos, he gathers Hernan Cortes and Francisco Pizarro and Gonzalo Pizarro before him in his court. Takes him down to the pub, orders that they regale him with stories of their exploits in the New World. Whoever makes him laugh the hardest will be gentrified, beatified, lionized. Cortez kicks the contest off. So in Mexico, you know what I did? I assumed the guise of a god. I ascended to Tenochtitlan, a Venice 7,000 feet up in the clouds. I was followed by 300 illiterate, homesick Spanish whose ships I scuttled. And in this continent of millions, I asked about the fate of just 2 white castaways. Duplicitous Lady Malinche was indentured as my translator and my mistress while I carved my path through the Aztecs across the Yucatan, dividing groups of people, twisting the Tlaxcalan. Tludilli, ambassador, came to the border, armed with only diplomacy. licked his finger, sucked the dirt. He handed round straws to us, looking bemused as we wore our peaked metal helmets, carrying sharpened crucifixes. To please us, he slit his wrist, sprinkled blood on the maize canapes, and thinking it would please us, chalked up dozens of squirming slaves and offered to have their hearts cut out with obsidian blades. We went into that, so the slaves ran screaming into the lake and washed the pigment off their skin and got ready for El Noche Triste. Meanwhile, Emperor Moctezuma, he believed I was a robotic steel god. I had to be, because I was blessed with a blunderbuss that had to be gifted from above. I ordered my Linche to tell him what we were here for. Tell him in Nahuatl that our people suffer an illness. It's terminal. We have to have a medicine, a precious yellow metal. Ashamed that we had to beg, it wasn't long till we were fetching pliers and wrenching our medicine from Moctezuma's very skin. And the funniest part, King Juan Carlos, is we forced the Aztecs to forgive us in our trespass. We cast the first stone because we were without sin, because we brought the damn book in which it was written. Now, Gonzalo Pizarro, he's Scot. He tells Juan Carlos, nah, ignore Cortez. For it is my joke that is the side splitting us. Right, check this shit out. So I arrived in Peru in 1540, marched up and over into the Amazon, trampling Machu Picchu, 6,000 k's through the tropical slush with 1,000 sows in a platoon, and slaves that we worked to death. Surprised that God met us in the forest and handed out a test. Starving and desperate, we had to steal the local folks' cassava, and we gorged on it uncooked till our stomachs bloated with gas. Turned out every forest feature was inhospitable to us Spaniards. It was all poisonous. Our pockets were stuffed with cinnamon and gold dust, inedible, useless. Mutiny soon bisected us. Orellana, my best lieutenant, we sent him sailing down the Amazon in a dugout canoe, but he went thousands of k's the wrong way. We despaired. We descended into the primitive, the barbaric. What happened was true story, we ate steaks sliced from the pack horses' backs, and we patched the gaps with mud to make scabs, to keep the beasts' hearts beating. When God was done mocking us, he eventually allowed us, humiliated, defeated, to backtrack our swords back over the mountains and into Ecuador, eating stick insects. But when we got to so-called civilization, we were not scorned for failing to find El Dorado and rip off his golden skin. In fact, we became famed for forging the first economy, raping our way back through the country. We bartered our festering syphilitic cocks for potatoes and smallpox. Whether the Amazonians wanted it or not, they couldn't resist us, King Carlos. That bit is, to me, the funniest. And then Francisco Pizarro interrupts. Why do you hear this? Me and my team, we clambered up and over into the Andes, sweating in our cotton armor, our abscess scabs leaking, burning, melting, pus like cheese. We oozed pus into the alpaca blankets that Atahualpa, the king, the Sapa Inca, was good enough to gift us. And I declared the arrival of the superior Spanish Renaissance man by garroting in public the king's father, Huayna Capac. I charged my slavering stallion into King Atahualpa's face. This king of 10 million who sat atop a continent, shat himself, afraid at our parades of alien stallions, never before seen beasts from the east with bells chiming in their manes. The Tehuantinsuyu people, they couldn't withstand it as we sipped our man-eating mastiffs. We raged hard enough to shake emeralds from the people's pockets. We filled a ransom room with golden goblets. My friar biffed the Bible so hard at Atahualpa, hard enough he was thrown from his throne. And all it took was my big ass ego and about 60 crossbows to pin 10 million men at Cusco. Mummies were stuffed inside the throats of saints. We melted temples. We chutnified their culture into a boiling mestizo gazpacho. But if you drop into San Salvador, Quito, or Santiago, you can laugh your ass off. King Juan Carlos. It's all because the best bit is, the punchline is, ours was a holy Holocaust, thanks to the guy you got to sponsor us. Ours was a Holocaust, endorsed by Jesus. That's 70 minutes. Well, should we do one last poem and then send you home? Yeah. To dream about obscure boxing matches and Peruvian history and ancient Roman Stoicism and Otago Day. All right. I'm pretty sure Packet Saver's been in there a couple of times too. All right. It's my muse. It's my muse. All right. We'll finish with a poem for Generation Me. Performed this one. I know he's turned the mic down because my voice is so loud. I performed this one a couple of years ago when they had the first New Zealand Poetry Festival. That was cool. Look at those. Is there any word for those selfish, entitled little fucks? Poem for Generation Me. There are some Generation Me's in the room, I know it. Not naming names. All right. A poem for Generation Me. This poem's got some history in it. All right. This poem's for all the whiny, self-entitled little bitches who want to contribute fuck all to the world and get applauded for it. Okay? A poem for Generation Me. A poem for Generation Me who seem to think the earth was created in 2020 just to please me. A poem for all the peeps who forget what our tupuna achieved, whether in Asia or Asia and Europe, overthrowing crooked French and English kings so they could install democracy. You're lucky you got MMP. Quit whining just because you sometimes get a government you don't like all the time. Thanks some Greeks. Quit the whining. Okay, sure, the old settler folk left us some Catholic guilt, but thanks to the settlers for giving us the shelters they built, and thanks to the tangata for growing kumara crops across the whenua. When, 1,000 years ago, they arrived to find a land with privilege and comfort level 0, every matariki as they got off the boat from Hawaii, they had to plant kumara in soil frozen hard as stone with only feather cloaks for clothes. And today we want to give McDonald's in Carmo a review of 0 because there was a queue. Because your 30-second fast food didn't get brought out fast enough for you. Dude, the first peeps had to drag goods and yams 1,000 k's across the Pacific, and we want a bitch because Whangarei KFC's quarter pack lacks a drumstick. Shit, we need to get humble. We need to get mumble. A little bit of thanks, a little bit of gratitude up the family tree to all the previous people who bequeathed a world that is actually pretty damn sweet. Did you know, 500 years ago, Giordano Bruno had his mouth and tongue nailed shut and he got put against a stake and burned because he told the Catholic Church we're not the centre of the universe? Did you know people died of radiation burns so they could bring us new elements? And you want to blog and weep because you got no fresh likes on your narcissistic vlog last week? How about a little thanks, some gratitude? How about saying shot to, I don't know, Scottish botanist Alexander Fleming? He discovered your kid's penicillin. How about cheers to Sydney Farber, doing unpaid, thankless research in a cold Boston basement, taking leukemia research that much farther? How about thanks to Jonas Salk? Without his polio vaccine, you wouldn't walk. How about props to my Polish antecedents and them Silesian swamps, painstakingly putting in and propagating potatoes and hops, so today I can easily enjoy a beer to wash down my Polish vodka shots. You know, actually, we owe it all to Neanderthals. They had the grace to step aside and let Homo sapiens take the stage as the greatest apes. And only Charles Darwin was watching. And he staked his reputation to conclude that this was evolution in a book hardly any of us have even read, because we wanted to type TLDR and read a listicle on BuzzFeed instead. You want to bitch about the sugar levels and the gluten-free cuisine you want to put behind your privileged lips, bro? Long ago, the only diet used to be paleo, yo, okay? And back in the day, before wheat, getting you a pizza delivered would take a lot longer than half an hour, and there wasn't any flavour back then except woolly mammoth meat lovers, and without peeps in the Middle East domesticating wheat and yeast, your pizza wouldn't even have a base, motherfucker! We need to take a step back and just extend a little bit of congrats to the radicals, the artists, the heretics. We need to recognise their sacrifices. Beethoven, my boy, went deaf and still composed for you, ode to joy. Gandhi got India independent, sitting around hungry for decades in his lungi. Jesus Christ took a spear in the side so he could inspire Martin Luther, Reformer, and Martin Luther King, and Ralph Abernathy. And people want to consider themselves equally worthy because they share some listicle off-up worthy. I'll tell you who praise is actually deserved. Praise is deserved by Gutenberg, with whose printing press I pressed these words. Okay? How about the whole language? How about we worship the Sanskrit for the English alphabet? How about we thank the Hindu Arabics for their damn numeral system? Why not thank your father for squirting you up your mother? And thank her ovaries for choosing you, the best sperm from a million other? So, Generation Flake of Snow. Next time you want to whinge about Game of Thrones, unsatisfactory streaming speeds, or how there need to be trigger warnings before every potentially upsetting thing you're about to read, shut the fuck up. Don't whinge, don't weep, and definitely don't tweet, because on the Endeavour, on the Mayflower, on the Nina, Pinta, or Santa Maria, on an outrigger coming from Hawaii, whiny little non-contributing bitches wouldn't last a single weekie. And that's Loudmouth, my full-length poetry show. Thank you for coming. Mwah. Good night.
We all put in $5 each, we'll do another half hour.
Yes.
Come in.
Probably would. Possibly doing more later in the week if there's an opening at Fringe. Yeah. Cool. No, thanks for coming, guys.